Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Lamas covered, three-handle family Gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B+ Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
Number 4, Armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the B+ Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Sunday, so you know what that means. It's time for All the Rest. All the Rest is our weekly episode. That's Rest with a W, short for wrestling. It's a pun. It's our weekly episode where we talk about all the rest of wrestling. Things that aren't WWE TV. So this week we're going to talk about Ring of Honor. We're going to talk about Lucha Underground. We're going to talk about the week in wrestling news, and I've been saying it for a while. That eventually I will get around to watching MLW TV, MLW Fusion, so that I can cover that on All the Rest as well. And this week is not that week, unfortunately. I watched MLW Fusion, but I watched it when I was half asleep. I was not taking notes. I just sort of watched it at bedtime because I had nothing else to watch. And, well, that's not true. I could have been watching Luke Cage. I could have been watching anything. I probably should have taken notes for you guys, but, you know, MLW Fusion, it's pretty good. I definitely recommend getting on it. This week's had Filthy Tom Lawler taking on Jake Hager. That's Jake Strong in Lucha Underground, Jack Swagger in WWE. And it was a pretty good match, pretty good main event. And they're moving towards MLW War Games, which I know Mikey watches a lot of MLW, so maybe me and Mikey can do a War Games podcast covering MLW War Games when that comes out, because that's going to be a good show. But for now, let's just have a look at the things that I do have prepared for you. I'm sorry, that was a real tease, but I'll get there. I'll let you know what's happening in MLW one day. This week in Ring of Honor, pretty slow week. All we have to talk about really is Ring of Honor TV. Of course, Ring of Honor were heavily involved in All In. You can listen to our All In review cast. If you go back a few days in the archives, I'll drop a link in the show notes. But we're not going to talk about All In here because we have already covered that at length. We did like an hour and 20 minutes on All In. So if you want to hear what we thought of All In, go back in the archives, go back just a couple of days, and you'll be able to see the All. I think the episode is called Sum In for All In, because we did the All In for All In preview cast where all four of us sat down to talk about All In. And then we did the Sum In because two of the guys were sick, so it was just me and Mikey again, the B+ OGs. But, you know, it is what it is. Let's move on and talk about Ring of Honor this week. The TV show is pretty much all we have to go on. There are some matches announced for Death Before Dishonor, which is coming up very soon, but it's about 3 weeks away, so we'll cover that more in depth as it gets closer. For now, this week's TV opened with Madison Rayne and Sumi Sakai going one-on-one in Women of Honor action. Sumi Sakai, the Women of Honor champion, gets the win. It was a good match. Honestly, I think it's time for Sumi to drop the title. There's just no reason for us to care about her as champion. She's a fighting champion. She's a fighting babyface champion who just puts the title on the line whenever it's required of her. But she hasn't had any solid story whatsoever. So I think but the thing is, I don't know who should take it. Maybe Tenille. Tenille Dashwood should take it, because she has the built-in story of wanting to redeem herself after a poor run in WWE, right? Well, a poor end of her run in WWE, all that Emelina stuff that went down. And Tenille Dashwood's been sort of building herself up on the indies, and she's doing a really, really good job. I'm a little bit biased as an Aussie. I want to see Aussies hold straps. So, you know, Tenille Dashwood, though, probably makes the most sense, and she is challenging at Death Before Dishonor. So I imagine Death Before Dishonor is when we're going to see Sumi Sakai drop the strap. She's had a good run with it, and it was definitely cool seeing her be the first Women of Honor champion, because she was involved in Women of Honor when it first launched. But I definitely think it's time for us to move on with the Women of Honor division and put that strap on someone who can carry it forward with some more compelling stories. Then we get a recap of the Shane Taylor and Josh Woods feud before they have a match. Now, recap videos before matches tend to mean that we're about to see the blow-off, generally speaking, so this could be the last time they encounter one another for a while, but I don't think the story's finished. So Shane Taylor's wearing MMA gloves, and Woods is convinced that he has something in those gloves. This was probably the best Josh Woods match I've seen. He did a real good job using the MMA ground game and incorporating it into the professional wrestling match. He ends up ripping off the glove. He gets the armbar on Shane Taylor and rips off the glove, revealing that they were weighted. They were weighted gloves, and that's how he got the knockout on him last time. The ref wants to throw out the match, but Woods is like, no, I can beat him. Don't throw the match out, I can beat him. Really cool that the ref is like, look, he's using illegal gloves, even though they haven't come into play here. We're going to throw this match out and start it again another time. Really cool. Gives it that sporting vibe, which you want it to have. This is Ring of Honor. So anyway, Woods says, no, I can beat him, but then Taylor hits the greetings from the 216 after taking advantage of the ref and Woods being distracted. So he hits the greetings from the 216 and gets the win. I hope that's not the end of it. If that's the end of it, I mean, it was a good story, but I think the better story is seeing Josh Woods finally get that comeuppance, seeing Josh Woods maybe knock Shane Taylor out without the use of weighted gloves, or even just getting him to submit in the armbar. Either way would be really good closure to have for this angle. If this is where it ends, however, it ends on a high point. This was their best match. This was probably Josh Woods' best match I've ever seen him in, and he can move on to something else after, but I really would like to see him get his comeuppance. Then we get SCU cutting a promo on the Briscoes about Delaware being the worst town I've ever been in. You know how it goes. You know how SCU do. Then we see a hype video for Jay Lethal versus Jonathan Gresham. That's happening next week. 30-minute Iron Man match. Ring of Honor TV next week. Definitely want to be tuning in for that one. We get another top prospect tournament match. This one is Charles Xanders versus Marcus Cross. Marcus Cross, dressed like Goku, gets really loud Goku chants from the crowd. That was pretty cool. Super Saiyan. You know how it works. Jeff Cobb comes out in a repeat of last week, just destroys both men. So Jeff Cobb is joining the Bully Ray stable, I guess, of hating young boys. All we need is Minoru Suzuki to show up, and then we can make Bully Ray relevant and compelling again, right? You put Jeff Cobb and Minoru Suzuki with Bully Ray, and I might actually care about the Bully Ray story. The Bully Ray stuff's overplayed. Jeff Cobb, I'm curious to see why he's doing this. I'm going to guess that his thinking is, you don't need a top prospect tournament. I am the top prospect, not in Ring of Honor. I'm going to guess that's where it's going. Eli Isom comes out and tries to get one over on Jeff Cobb in a revenge from last week where he interfered in the Eli Isom match. And Jeff Cobb, of course, hits the Tour of the Islands and he's done with it. Eli Isom has no hope in hell against Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb looks absolutely brutal. Again, he looks better than he does in Lucha Underground as Matanza. He's doing a little bit more here, which is nice. Would still like to see him have actual competitive matches, because I know he can. But it's nice that they're using... I mean, when Bully Ray is doing it, Bully Ray's doing it to Flip Gordon. You know, and that's not cool. When Jeff Cobb's doing it, he's doing it to the top prospects. These are indie guys that are looking for a shot at Ring of Honor. I'm more okay with that happening. You know, if Bully Ray was... When Bully Ray attacked the Neon Ninja and stuff, it was okay. But when he starts attacking, I don't know, with Flip Gordon, because there hasn't been a comeuppance. The only comeuppance that he's had was at All In, and it still took 3 men to do that. So it's a little bit strange, but the story continues with Silas and Bully Ray. So Bully Ray's getting a lot of airtime on Ring of Honor. He got a lot of airtime on All In as well, come to think of it. Anyway, Silas and Bully Ray, you'll remember from last week, Bully Ray came out after Silas Young got beaten by Flip Gordon, and he was kind of disappointed. He was sort of shaking his head at Silas. We weren't sure where it was going. Now, this week we got a little bit more story development there. So it was Silas and Bully Ray versus the Best Friends, because of course the Best Friends came out for the save last week. Silas and Bully Ray team up. The Best Friends, Chucky and Beretta. Bully Ray abandons Silas towards the end of the match. So Silas goes for the hot tag, but Bully Ray jumps down off the apron. He's like, no, you're not the man you used to be. You're not the man you used to be. You need to learn a lesson. And Silas gets defeated by the Best Friends. I'm curious to see where this goes. It could go one of 2 ways. Silas could sort of come around and be like, you're right, I'm not the man I used to be. I need to be more of a prick. Or he could turn on Bully Ray and be like, I'm not the man I used to be because it was a prick. And you're a prick. And a real man isn't a prick. Real men don't be dicks, I guess, could be the angle they go for. I'm curious to see where it goes. it was a good juxtaposition seeing the best friends next to these two real men, and they don't have friends, real men can display emotion, like Chucky T. Kent and Beretta. They hold hands. Real men hold hands. I don't know. It's interesting. I'll say that much. This is more interesting than Bully Ray's other story with all the young boys. This is Silas getting some comeuppance over Bully Ray and being the hero we need, the hero we deserve. That could be really interesting. So I'm willing to see this one play out a little more than just Bully Ray beating up Flip Gordon all the time. Moving on, let's take a look at Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground this week was actually kind of a poor episode when it comes to the in-ring action. The main event was Pentagon and Hernandez, and Pentagon did what he could, but Hernandez, at the age and size he is at, he's just not in shape to be doing lengthy one-on-one matches. Not that this was long. This probably only went for 8 minutes, 6 to 8 minutes, somewhere in that range, but it just wasn't great. But we'll get there. Let's go through the show top to bottom. We start off the show with the highlight of the wrestling week, for me at least. This was everything I love about Lucha Underground. It encapsulates everything that they do differently, everything that they do so fantastically well. It was a real grindhouse kind of scene. So basically we start off with Katrina telling Mil Muertes she's done. She never loved him. She has her life back now. She's sick of wasting her time with him. She gives him that magical stone that she carries around, and then she goes to leave, but who's there? Melissa Santos is there. So Melissa Santos, of course, a few weeks ago was attacked by Katrina with the vase at ringside during the Haunted House match. Melissa Santos is there, and she's ready to fight. They start a really cool fight scene. They brawl throughout this building they're in. I'm not sure where it was. It could be part of the temple, I'm not sure. They end up on the roof. Katrina tries to throw Santos off, tells her that Phoenix died for her. Santos grabs her and throws her down, and she's sort of holding onto the rafters, right? So she's hanging from the edge of the roof. Katrina now is hanging from the edge of the roof, looking up, and Melissa Santos just sort of backs up, and there's Mil Muertes. And Mil Muertes comes and grabs her by the arm and lifts her up, puts the rock back into her hand, and says, "This is to remember me by," and he lets her go. He lets her go. Katrina is dead. She's just fallen from the roof of the temple to the street below. It's pretty brutal. Then we see back downstairs, Melissa Santos is there walking past the body when Aerostar shows up. Aerostar requests the Piedra Immortal from Santos, and he tells her he can give her what she most desires in exchange for her half of the Piedra Immortal. So he activates his suit, which kind of sucks up, I guess, the essence of Katrina, or the soul of Katrina, and he uses that energy to teleport back through time. So we get absolute confirmation that he travels through time. We get a 10 weeks earlier graphic, and then poof, here he is. He appears in the room after Katrina leaves. This was a few weeks ago when Katrina kissed Phoenix and got his life force to resurrect herself when she changed from that black dress to that red dress. I talked about it a few weeks ago. So he's back there now, and as soon as she leaves, he comes over and he sort of puts that essence back into Phoenix. So essentially, Phoenix only lost his life essence for a minute because she sucks it out. She goes back forward. She lives 10 weeks in real world time, and then Aerostar goes back to give that essence to Phoenix straight away the moment he lost it. Time travel, folks. Lucha Underground. This is wrestling. This is what I love about wrestling. We have a real life time travel story. He travels back in time 10 weeks to give back the life essence. If it sounds convoluted, that's because it's time travel. This stuff isn't really possible. It's sci-fi. It's fantastic. He gives the life essence back to Phoenix, and Phoenix awakens. He teleports him back to the future, and he tells Melissa Santos, look, he's been taken out of time, so it may take a while for him to return to normal, because he's just skipped 10 weeks. He was lying there dead on a slab, and then, boom, 10 weeks in the future, he's alive again. So he's going to be a bit confused. He's a man out of time. He's not sure what's going on. But Phoenix is alive. Phoenix is back. He is with Melissa Santos. She hands over her half of the Piedra Immortal. So now, Aerostar has one half of the Piedra Immortal. Very curious what's happening here. Aerostar has something planned. We know he can see the future. We know he can go to the future. This is very exciting stuff. I'm very curious to see where it goes. This scene was the best scene of Lucha Underground for the entire year so far. It's everything I love about it. It's absolute B-grade grindhouse. Fantastically done. Aerostar is a star. Melissa Santos is a star. She is undeniably good at acting in this kind of thing. And the fight scene was solid. The fight scene was really enjoyable. I sort of skipped past that, but they fought throughout this building, up the stairwell to the roof. They put each other's heads through a window. It was really entertaining. It was a really well choreographed fight scene. I highly recommend anyone who doesn't watch Lucha Underground, this is a fantastic episode to start off with. You'll be watching this opening and thinking, what the hell is going on? You'll cook some popcorn and you'll sit down and you'll be like, I cannot look away. It's such a great scene. Everything I love about Lucha Underground. And then we move on to the rest of the episode, which kind of was a letdown considering how great the opening was. In a follow-on from last week's wedding angle, Joey Wrestling, that is Joey Mercury, of course, is in the ring, and he is looking for revenge against Matanza, so Antonio Cueto comes out, and he's like, you want revenge for last week for the wedding? I understand that. Let's have a match. You have been chosen for a sacrifice to the gods. Out comes Matanza. This is the most competitive Matanza match we've gotten in a long time on Lucha Underground. Joey Mercury really takes it to him, but ultimately he gets hit with the Wrath of the Gods in the middle of the ring, and he is sacrificed. So Joey Wrestling is dead, gone from Lucha Underground. We never expected him to stick around that long. He was here for the wedding and for a match, and that makes sense. So I'm okay with this one. Some of the sacrifices that have taken place I've kind of been very disappointed by, but this one makes sense. This one I am completely okay with. Moving on, we get Killshot versus Big Bad Steve. This match is really just to cement Killshot's Rudo turn. He's gone bad guy. He turned on Son of Havoc and the Mac during their 6-man tag match last week or a few weeks ago. I'm not too sure. I know that he did, though. And then this match, he comes out and he's rocking a new heel look. He's got the camo sleeves. He's got, his mask was still the same. But anyway, Son of Havoc is in the crowd. He's watching. He's got popcorn. Killshot gets the win over Big Bad Steve. The match was just sort of there. The match was just there to put over the story of Killshot's a dick now. Killshot's a full-on bad guy. Killshot, of course, is played by Shane Strickland for any Evolve fans out there, so you know he can go. But this match wasn't really a showcase. This was just more for the story. He goes out into the crowd and he tips out Son of Havoc's popcorn, and Son of Havoc gets up and they start to have a bit of a brawl. So he's a full-on bad guy. He's a full-on bad guy, no question about it. Son of Havoc rips his mask off and he runs away covering his face. Pretty good stuff. I think ultimately it's going to end in a mask versus mask match. I think that's the logical thing here. And the question is, does Shane Strickland unmask or does Matt Cross unmask? Because, of course, M-Dog Matt Cross, he was at All In. It might be worth them capitalizing on that and unmasking Son of Havoc finally. He's been around since the beginning. Killshot as a heel, he can carry that mask around as a trophy. He can be the guy who unmasked Son of Havoc. I think that's probably the best way to go, especially since the first unmasking has come at the hands of Son of Havoc. I think it's the best way for this to go. Then we get Pentagon out issuing an open challenge. He was supposed to have a match against Johnny Mundo this week for the Lucha Underground Championship. However, because Johnny Mundo is out because of the attack on the wedding by Matanza, he's going to issue an open challenge. I thought it would have been really cool to see Ricky Mundo step up and obviously get his arm broken. Because Ricky Mundo unleashed Matanza on the wedding, it would have been cool to see him capitalize, like, well, now's my chance to have this Lucha Underground title match, and then just get completely destroyed as a bit of comeuppance. But what they went with instead was Hernandez. Now, Hernandez should not be in a main event of a Lucha Underground show. Pentagon did what he could. It was a decent match. It's just that Hernandez is not in the shape he once was. Hernandez is probably best as a tag team player at this point in time. Ultimately, Pentagon defeats Hernandez, retains his championship, and goes for the arm break. King Cuerno attacks, though. What's going on? Why is King Cuerno attacking Pentagon? Only King Cuerno knows. King Cuerno's another guy who's kind of like Aerostar. He has his own reasons. He knows things we don't know, and he's sort of always in the background, always this really key player manipulating things and knowing what's going on and reacting to everything in unexpected ways. Very curious to see why he's going after Pentagon. Could just be that he wants a title. That could be his only reason. But I'm very interested to see what's going on here, how this plays into the wider story. And that's everything that happened on Lucha Underground this week. We've already talked about everything that happened in Ring of Honor, so now it's time to pick out some of the top stories of the week in wrestling news. First up off the bat, because we are in Australia and WWE Super Showdown is taking place in just under 4 weeks at this point, I believe. It's on October 6th. It's happening in Melbourne at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, the world-famous MCG. Let's take a look at how the card is shaping up for Super Showdown. I joked on the View from the WWE Universe that we should just call the show Rematch City, because everything appears to be a rematch. The big ones we had announced this week were the WWE Championship between AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, and the Women's Championship match between Becky Lynch and Charlotte. Now, they both have matches at Hell in a Cell, so essentially we know that they're going to meet again at Super Showdown, so the results for Hell in a Cell don't matter. It's a strange way to book it. Like, let the match play out at Hell in a Cell first, and then announce the rematch for Super Showdown. It makes a lot more sense. Right now, the matches at Hell in a Cell feel like they have zero stakes, because they're just happening again at Super Showdown. Makes the Super Showdown card look a little bit weaker as well. But let's have a look. So we've got a WWE Championship between AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. It's going to be an amazing match, even if it is a rematch. Daniel Bryan versus The Miz, and the winner of that match will become the #1 contender for the WWE Championship. Triple H is going one-on-one with The Undertaker for the last time ever, or so they say. We had that build-up on Raw with Shawn Michaels, who we know now is going to be a special guest enforcer or referee. It's not quite clear whether he's an actual referee or just a guest enforcer. Enforcer is like on the outside of the ring. It's kind of a useless distinction. But Triple H vs. The Undertaker with Shawn Michaels involved somehow. That's going to be a cracker. The Shield take on Braun Strowman, Dolph Ziggler, and Drew McIntyre, meaning that none of the Raw titles are going to be defended. None of the Raw titles can be defended at this show because the Intercontinental title and the World title are tied up in this match, and the Women's title is tied up in Ronda Rousey and the Bella Twins against the Riot Squad. I do imagine that Ronda Rousey and the Bella Twins match is going to have a major angle, though, probably with Nikki Bella kicking Ronda's head off and kicking off that feud heading towards Evolution. That's what we hope anyway. Then we have John Cena and Bobby Lashley against Kevin Owens and Elias, because Kevin Owens returned to attack Bobby Lashley. I guess Kevin Owens returned to attack Bobby Lashley because he knew this match was coming, and he's like, I need to do something to give myself the edge. That's why he came back. I have no idea why Kevin Owens came back, why they didn't just let that angle breathe. Imagine if he came back in Melbourne, right? Like if they took him off the card and we weren't expecting it, and then he came back to make the save in this match. I don't know. It was weird, but it is what it is. John Cena and Bobby Lashley take on Kevin Owens and Elias. And of course, the big one for us Aussies, the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. Cedric Alexander takes on Buddy Murphy for the gold. We gotta assume Buddy Murphy's gonna win it. They wouldn't put this match on and have Buddy Murphy not win. It's one of those things that kind of makes everything that's happening on 205 Live between now and then redundant, because they haven't been building a story for these two. We still have Drew Gulak and Cedric Alexander to deal with on the TV show, so it's a little strange how they're booking this show. It's basically a house show, but it's going to be on the network. It's going to be awesome anyway. I mean, we're getting The Undertaker. You can't complain about it. It's going to be fantastic. That's the Super Showdown card as it stands at the moment. And of course, as I mentioned, the championship match between Charlotte and Becky, which is a rematch as well from Hell in a Cell. In other WWE news, their New Year's Eve episode of Raw is going to be taped this year. So last year was the first time they did it live on both Christmas and New Year's Eve. And apparently a lot of the talent were not happy about having to work the New Year's Eve. And to be honest, I don't blame them. It's kind of weird expecting them to work. So that one's going to be taped. They're going to tape it a couple of days earlier, and then it's going to air on New Year's Eve. Good for them. I think let the talent have the night off. Let the talent go and do their New Year's Eve celebrations. I mean, fans want to celebrate as well. Like, I don't understand. It seems weird to me that you would ever want to have a live event on New Year's Eve, but that is what it is. This year it's going to be taped. All is right with the world. Moving on, we got the announcement this week that the Mixed Match Challenge has returned. We talked about it a little bit on The View from the WWE Universe, but I'm going to run down all of the competitors because when I listened back in editing, I realized we didn't actually do that. So this year's Mixed Match Challenge sees Bliss and Strowman, Team Little Big, they're back, Sasha Banks and Bobby Lashley, Bayley and Finn Balor, Alicia Fox and Jinder Mahal, that one's an odd couple if ever I've seen them, Kevin Owens and Natalya. That's weird. Natalia's a face, Kevin Owens is a heel. Not sure how that one's going to work. Asuka and Miz are back together. Naomi and Jey Uso, obviously Lana and Rusev. Charlotte Flair and AJ Styles. You got to think they're going to win it, right? You got to think they're going to win it. But Carmella and R-Truth, that's my underdog pick. I want Carmella and R-Truth to make it to the finals. I think the finals for SmackDown will come down to Carmella and R-Truth against Flair and Styles. I don't know. Asuka and Miz could make it to the SmackDown final. I think the final on Raw will probably be Banks and Lashley versus Bayley and Balor, but you can't count out Team Little Big. I don't know, it's exciting. It just sucks for us here in Australia because we don't get to watch it live. We get it on like a 4-week delay when it goes on the network because for some reason Facebook Watch doesn't let us see. I don't know how the Facebook Watch stuff works. It makes no sense to me. But that's the Mixed Match Challenge. It pushes 205 Live back, which is unfortunate. It cuts some time from 205 Live. 205 Live is one of my favorite shows of the week, so, you know, it's going to bum me out for a few weeks while they're airing the Mixed Match Challenge, but, you know, it is what it is. Moving on, WWE, there's some glaring omissions there as well. I mean, how can you have a Mixed Match Challenge and not include Andrade Cien Almas and Zelina Vega? One would assume, with all the work that they've been doing on SmackDown, one would assume that they would be involved. You would also assume that Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella would be involved. Daniel Bryan has, of course, re-signed. We found that out this week. He has re-signed a contract, which, you know, all of us indie fans are a little upset about. A lot of NJPW people wanted him to go there. We all wanted him to show up at All In. We all wanted him to show up at All In too. Turns out he couldn't have shown up at All In anyway because WWE, because of his injury, WWE could have held him for a year under the contract, which I think they did something similar with Rey Mysterio. If you're injured, they have an option in the contract of extending it for a year, meaning that they could have held on to him and prevented him from doing anything anyway. So you gotta imagine that that played into his decision-making. If his lawyers had a look at the contract and were like, look, they can hold you and stop you from going anywhere anyway, he probably just was like, well, I may as well just sign with them and stay in their good books. Because you gotta imagine he wanted to be at All In. He wished them luck on Twitter and said he was proud of them. I imagine he wanted to be there. I have to imagine that, but he's re-signed now. There's not too many details about what the deal is, but it is a multi-year deal. You got to assume he pretty much got everything he wanted, because with the way the indies are at the moment, he easily could have gone elsewhere and made a living, and WWE know that, so he kind of has... The wrestlers kind of have the power at the moment. We're in a unprecedented situation where the wrestlers, especially the top guys, the guys who can make it on the indies, you know, I mean, you wouldn't see a Baron Corbin necessarily having all the power in a negotiation, but guys like Daniel Bryan, guys like AJ Styles, guys that come from that world and could easily go back to that world and make a killing with how the landscape is at the moment, they have to have all the power in their negotiations. Even a team like the Club are going to have a lot of power come negotiation time to get all the things how they want it, the dates they want, the money they want, because they could just go on the indies and do it that way and make a lot of money. And WWE know this. So Daniel Bryan would have gotten all the things he wanted. So really happy for him. He's going to provide for his family, doing what he loves. You can't fault the guy for that. It's fantastic. Speaking of contract situations, we know that WWE have their eyes on the Lucha Brothers. That's Pentagon and Phoenix. Major League Wrestling tweeted out an interesting tweet this week. They said, it's been an incredible 2018 for the hashtag Lucha Bros, and a monumental moment is on the horizon for Rey Fenix and Penta El-Zero-M as we hear what 2019 holds for them. MLW fans may be shocked to see what's next, but they spelt next without the E. NXT. Very cryptic. MLW basically leaking it out, I suppose, that the Lucha Brothers are going to NXT. Of course, there's been no official news, but WWE don't really like to announce these signings. Matt Riddle, there was talk about it, and then we found out at the takeover when he was sitting in the crowd. So I assume we're going to get a similar thing. We could even find out that Penta El-Zero-M was behind the attack of Aleister Black. That wouldn't surprise me at all. That would fit in line with the Penta El-Zero-M character. The cool thing about Penta is he doesn't own Pentagon Jr., obviously. Pentagon Jr. is an existing thing, but Penta El-Zero-M, as far as I know, he actually owns that trademark, owns that gimmick, so that's why he's quite often referred to as Penta El-Zero-M. So he's probably going to show up in NXT as Penta El-Zero-M. Phoenix, the Lucha Brothers, are they going to be a tag team? Are they going to go straight to 205 Live? There's a lot of options there, but this tweet would indicate that they're heading to NXT. Very exciting to see what happens there. Of course, the Lucha Brothers were two of the biggest stars coming out of the weekend with All In. It's unavoidable. We're done with the WWE news. We're going to talk about the indie news now. All In is pretty much everything this week, so the numbers have started to come in. 11,263 people were in attendance for the show. That's paying customers. 11,263 tickets sold. What an incredible feat. They also, for the WGN America 0 Hour show, pulled in a rating of 0.8, which was 196,000 people. To put that in perspective, I mean, if you're talking WWE numbers, that sounds like nothing, right? Because WWE get millions per week, but 196,000 people watching, that's higher than Impact. Well, it's around the level Impact get, and they're putting out weekly shows. They have a brand, they have a name, they have advertising. All In was just this one-off show, and they got 200,000 people on to watch it. It's pretty impressive. They weren't in prime time, whereas Impact is as well, so it's to get those kind of numbers, they got to be happy with it. It was the highest rated thing on WGN America for the week, I think even for the month. So, WGN America have got to be looking at it. They've signed, I think it's Rise of the Warriors Wrestling for a Saturday morning wrestling show. You got to think WGN America are looking at this like, let's get into the wrestling business, because there's a lot of potential there, and if it's going to get them ratings like that, they're going to want to get in on that. Beyond that, Fight TV haven't released official numbers, but the pay-per-view, along with StarCast, pulled in over $1 million in sales for Fight TV. Now, that's between All In and StarCast. You got to think not a lot of people watched StarCast, though. Like, the StarCast package was like $150 to get the StarCast package. And I don't think, I mean, $60 was enough for the pay-per-view. I don't think people are paying $150 to $200 Australian for the StarCast package. I mean, I may be wrong. There are a lot of diehard hardcore fans out there. I'm one of them, but even I wasn't going that far. I'm like, there's too much wrestling to watch already. I can't just load my plate with StarCast stuff as well. All In is enough for me. But yeah, $1 million in sales. You got to assume most of that's from the pay-per-view. That's a lot. That's a lot of people watching. I'm very curious. I want to find out the numbers they did on pay-per-view, but that hasn't come out yet. In typical Young Bucks style, though, 11,263 tickets sold. That is a shirt that you can get now. It says 11,263. September 1st, Sears Center Arena. Pretty cool. They're going to turn it into more money. Speaking of the tees, Pro Wrestling Tees did $500,000 in sales over the All In weekend. So the actual retail store, most of their sales come from online. They're not going to. They haven't told us how much they've made online over this weekend because they had that big All In sale. I know that my kids and my wife got me something for Father's Day from that sale, so I'm very curious to see what that is. I'll do an unboxing video when it comes. But just in the retail store, where they don't normally do big business, most of their business is online, just in the retail store at Pro Wrestling Tees in Chicago, they did $500,000. That's a lot of t-shirts. That is a lot of t-shirts. Really fantastic stuff. This was, in terms of business, this weekend was a huge success for everyone involved. StarCast did big numbers, made good money. All In did big numbers, we presume made good money. Pro Wrestling Tees made good money. Everyone, all the wrestlers are making money. This is a great thing for the wrestling business. The more places there are for people to make more money, the better business is. The more business grows, the more eyes will tune in. It's a really, there's nothing else to say other than what a fantastic thing for pro wrestling All In was. Coming out of All In, of course, Jericho attacked Kenny Omega at the show, said, "See you on the cruise." A lot of people thought, oh, he's there just to hype up a stupid 6-man tag match. No! Stupid idiots! You just made the list! Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega is happening on the Jericho cruise. It's Alpha vs. Omega 2, and it's taking place only on the Jericho cruise. I really hope he announces some sort of partnership with Fight after seeing how well All In did, because people want to see this, man. People want to see these matches. People want to see what happens on the Jericho cruise. There's a lot of money to be made there, man. And I know you can't announce it until right before the cruise takes off, because a lot of people will be like, I'm not going on some stupid cruise when I can just watch it from home. But you want people on the cruise. I get that. Please stream this, though. Because for those of us, I mean, I can't go on the cruise, man. I'm in Australia. Maybe you can make a deal with Fight where you only stream it outside of the United States. So anyone in the United States, they have no excuse. They can get to wherever the takeoff is and they can go on the cruise with you. But we can't, man. We are in another country. You know, that's a whole lot of issues we got to deal with in order to get onto this cruise. So please find a way to let it be accessible to us. Even if it's a DVD after the fact, that'd be pretty cool. One of the other stars of All In was, of course, Tessa Blanchard. Won the big women's match that they had, the Fatal 4-Way. And Tessa Blanchard this week has signed with Women of Wrestling. Women of Wrestling, of course, some of the people who were involved in the original Glow are involved in this, and it's taping in Las Vegas. Women of Wrestling Superheroes, I think they're taping at a Comic-Con. I'm not too sure. I know that it's taping in Las Vegas. I probably should have looked into it for you guys, but, you know, hey, I'm just one man. So, Tessa Blanchard has signed a contract with Women of Wrestling. She will be at the first taping. She's coming for the title straight off the bat. What a big signing that is for Women of Wrestling. You got to think that's going to get people tuning in. That's going to take place, by the way, on Access TV. So the same network that are airing New Japan are going to be airing Women of Wrestling. Really cool. There's more and more wrestling getting on TV. We're entering a new boom. It is happening. There is going to be more and more wrestling companies getting TV deals, especially after all this all-in stuff. Women of Wrestling is going to start doing good numbers. New Japan's picking up. This is very exciting stuff. Looking at some different news that's exciting for me, and this is the last one. I'm going to leave you with this one. JTG. Crime Time, JTG. He has announced his new company. Sexy as Hell Beard Care. Sexy as Hell Beard Care. All natural beard care. We're talking beard oils, beard pomades, beard combs, beard brushes, beard shampoos, beard conditioners. All natural. JTG, brother, I'm a bearded man. I would love to help you sell your products. Get in touch with me, man, and we'll work out a deal, right? I'll advertise it. You just gotta throw some my way. I can get my beard looking sexy as hell. Just gonna put that out there. I want a sexy as hell beard. I already have a sexy as hell beard, but I have a sexy beard. I want it to be sexy as hell. But that's gonna do it for us here at All the Rest at the B Plus Podcast. You can find me at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at The Greg Unchained on Instagram. We collectively are known as the B Plus Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit. The B Plus Wrestling everywhere else. I'm talking Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. Like, share, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review if you feel so inclined. And thank you so much for listening.
Hold one. Arm drag.
You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Yeah.
Goodbye and good night.
Hold two. Arm bar.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it. Dummy. Yeah.
Hold three. The moss covered. Three-handle family good uncle.